Hey guys, welcome to this mini series about corporate level strategies. And on this first part of this mini series, I want to talk about horizontal integration. So, first of all, let's talk about corporate level strategies, which is basically the big topic of this mini series. And here, what we know is that corporations or companies that have several businesses in them, they need to choose a strategy that basically will promote the success of those individual businesses. And therefore, it is important that the strategy chosen is not driven by just what the CEO of the corporation wants, but rather what are the needs of the businesses that operate within that company. So if you adopt the correct strategy, this can lead to a better sustainable competitive advantage, but also it can lead to higher profitabilities as well. And at the end of the day, that is the reason why we adopt strategies, to obtain higher profitabilities. So what does that mean? Well, basically means that it's, in a way, everyone in the team has to row in the same direction. The different businesses we have to be going the same direction, and that direction or that strategy needs therefore to be aligned with everyone that has in that corporation. So one of the strategies we can use to actually increase the competitive advantage of a company, for example, is to use horizontal integration. Now, horizontal integration is the acquisition or merger with a competitor in order to achieve the competitive advantages that come from a larger size and a larger scope of operation. Things, for example, like economies of scale. So what does that mean? Basically means that well, it follows the old saying that says, if you can't fight them, then join them, right? But in these cases, if you cannot fight them, then buy them. And actually, what companies found out is that it's much cheaper to buy the competition, for example, rather than trying to fight them. And a perfect example of this was Facebook actually acquiring the company Instagram. So they realized there was a huge potential there, and rather than trying to destroy them and say, oh, let's eliminate Instagram so that all people have to come to Facebook, they decided, no, let's acquire them, build their business, and actually we win more from this than from trying to fight them. So here there are two main distinctions. Like I said, I talked about acquisitions and mergers. Let's start with acquisitions. Well, acquisitions is when a company purchases another company. What does that mean? Well, you have company A that decides to purchase company B. At the end, the full ownership is of company A, and typically there's many times where company B becomes a subunit of company A and therefore disappears, or and therefore the result is we only end up with company A. So acquisitions means that a company basically buys another company. Now, a perfect example of this was the company Disney. They decided to purchase the company Pixar, and at the end now all the movies come out are basically Disney. Yes, the Pixar is still there, but now the Pixar is developed as a subdivision of what Disney is. So merger, on the other hand, is two companies that join forces together in order to better compete in a market. Now, this basically means that there is a big difference between merger and acquisition, because in merger you have company A, you have company B, and then the resulting company will be something new, something that did not exist before, company C, and therefore company A and company B tend disappear in this situation. One of the biggest mergers of all times was between a company called Exxon and a company called Mobil, and they created, well, you probably guessed it, the company ExxonMobil. So that means this was a merger on the sense that both companies from before kind of disappeared, and now it's just one big company. Now, why would they do that? I'm going to talk about that in a couple slides. Actually right now. So one of the there's many advantages of doing horizontal integration. One of them is you have less costs because, for example, now let's imagine you don't need two different departments of human resource manager, or you don't need two different human resource managers or directors, you just need one. So this is just a small example. But for example, it can be much higher. For example, distribution. The example of ExxonMobil, you don't need two different systems of distribution now, you just need one, and that saves a lot of money. Second one is that it can increase product diversification, because when you buy, for example, your competitor, now you have more products. Perfect example, Facebook and Instagram. Now Facebook has a higher variety of products they can offer on Facebook thanks to the acquisition of Instagram. Another one is leverage competitive advantage. In other words, your competitive advantage becomes much more strong if you make a good acquisition. Once again, going back to the example of merger of the acquisition of Facebook and Instagram, what happened was the competitive advantage of Facebook is indeed the customer responsiveness they have, the ability to communicate and adapt their product to their customer. Now, with the acquisition of Instagram, what happened is Facebook was able to increase the level of that, and therefore they became even more customer focused because they had access to more data, they had access to more patterns on how customers use their platforms. Another one is obviously you have less competition because technically you just bought your competition. They're now your allies rather than your competition. And you have increased bargaining power. And you have increased bargaining power both with clients and suppliers, because now your clients and your suppliers have less options. Your clients have less options where to buy from, but your suppliers now you have more pressure over them, because basically you are able now to negotiate better price since you are buying higher quantities. But horizontal integration also has problems, obviously. So one of the main problems is that it's very difficult to implement. And the second big problem is the fact that many governments don't like horizontal integration. And why is that? Well, there's many reasons, but number one, there's laws regarding competition, and a lot of times end up you have less competition if you keep on buying your competitors. And when you have less competition and you have a big company, then that big company can increase prices, for example, or can abuse its market power, or it can try to eliminate potential competitors. And this is the reason why many governments will intervene and stop mergers from happening. So, to summarize, horizontal integration can be a very useful tool to use in big corporations or even in small businesses as well when you have the capital to do. But remember that the biggest difficulty of having horizontal integrations is the problem of actually implementing that. Putting two companies that have very different cultures and very different ways of working and trying to make them work together is way more complicated than what it seems. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next video.